Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're receiving this audio. Welcome back to another episode of the Busted Coverage Podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Persampieri, joined always by my colleagues Cam Griffin and Matt Baywood. We want to thank you guys for tuning in as usual. We appreciate all your support. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so that you know when new videos drop. And also, leave a comment. Let us know your takes. Ask us some questions. We'd love to shout you guys out. Also, if you want to follow Baywoods Bets, he leaves updates in the comments as well. For tonight's episode, Cam is going to be moderating, and he'll be going over our topics for this evening. So, with that said, Mr. Griffith, if you could take it away, please.
Thank you. Well, we are, I would assume, 2 weeks, or actually 2 games into our NCAA tournament bracket, and we are going to review and look at our tournament as of where we stand right now. We are going to talk about what players have impressed us the most. We can't, while we're sticking on the basketball topic, we're going to see a little NBA update, and as usual, we have Nick's rants, Baywoods Bets, and my game of the week. And then we'll recap everything we go with. So let's kick it off because we've had a lot of games to go with. Matt, I'm going to start with you because I know you did not do a bracket. But on our tourney update, what game, or has there been a game that you have looked at and were just really excited to watch? Or what game has stood out to you so far?
Okay. The games that I'm gonna look back just because there were some games that I was excited. I'm gonna say that the games that I bet because those are the games that I watched and I was excited to watch. Um, let's see here. The tournament started on Thursday or Friday? Thursday, right? So I was excited to follow McNeese versus Clemson because Cam had pointed it out last week and he was correct about his prediction of McNeese taking on Clemson. He's like, keep your eye on it. Arkansas versus Kansas. I took the points on that one because I just thought Arkansas overall was a better team than Kansas. But the way that every bracket goes and every tournament goes is you could have a 15-point lead and it can be gone in a matter of 2 minutes. You could hit a cold streak like Arkansas did, and they ended up pulling it out, but um, it ended up being a sweat. That game was really good though, because at the end it just started going back and forth. The next day I was watching Vanderbilt versus St. Mary's. Also another good game. Two teams that were scoring pretty high for college basketball. I think Vanderbilt went in averaging 80 points and St. Mary's was somewhere around 72 to 75. It ended up being a super low scoring game because they were so alike. So it's always nice to see matchups like that where you can just look at two similar teams and just see who's going to pull it out. And St. Mary's managed to pull it out. However, my bet covered. Cam heard the live reaction to that because I was just going off on the phone.
I did.
And then yesterday, Gonzaga versus Houston. I thought Gonzaga was going to pull it out. They had to rally kind of late, but Houston's obviously the better team. But I thought, just the entertainment purposes, it was good. And then today, the game of the day so far has been Uconn versus Florida State. I couldn't miss it.
And we are here in Connecticut, so is a little bittersweet in Connecticut. Obviously UConn losing. Florida did not play great, and they won. UConn played personally; they thought they played awful, and the fact that they were even in the game is a great thing. Matt, is there a game that in the last 2 days you think that you're looking back on and you can't get that game out of your head?
Because we're in Connecticut and we're all Uconn fans, I'd say that one because they just lost it. We can get into that a little bit later because Nick might have something to say about it. Get out of my head. I think the North Carolina game actually, because North Carolina actually surprised me. I didn't think they belonged in the tournament at all.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why they were in the tournament was because they came back against Duke and they managed to squeak into a playoff game. However, they put up a good fight against Ole Miss, who I actually have beating Iowa today. So North Carolina put up a good fight. They impressed me. So the fact that it was that close, I can't remember how far Ole Miss was favorites, but I feel like it was double digit. They only won by 7, but I mean, again, that's towards the end when you're fouling. It was really close. So that game really surprised me. Other than that, actually St. Mary's surprised me because they were down by like 15 and it, their three ball was not going at all in the first half and they just started raining threes. So the fact that I mean, they're down right now by 10 points with 5 minutes left against Alabama, and you can't just say that they're out because they've already rallied in the first round. So there's that.
It's funny. I think when we watch the tournament, the first round games they're always fun to get the tournament kicked off with. But there's some games that you look at and you're like, well, this team's going to win. Why do we even watch it? Nick, we watched a lot of the first games together, and it kind of seemed that, or at least we talked about them, a lot of teams kind of struggled to get out of the gate. Is there a game that you looked at that in round 1 or even round 2 today that you just can't get out of your head, like that was a great game or they almost blew it? What game sticks out to you?
So I want to preface my take on the NCAA tournament by saying currently my bracket is ranked higher on ESPN than like 8 million people. So that's number one. However, there's 16 million people that are doing better than me currently, but we're going to ignore that part. The one game that I really thought could have been was VCU. I spoke very highly about them last week. I have to eat crow. Those damn Mormons. But I'm just kidding. BYU. They
Mormons,
played
if
a
you're
great
listening,
game.
please subscribe.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm just messing with y'all guys. But I mean, BYU came out hot. VCU only scored 28 points in the first half, and it did them in. Because actually, VCU outscored BYU in the second half. So if they had gotten out to a better start, they could have pulled off that upset. So it wasn't unrealistic. But I watched a lot of VCU this year and St. Joe's in the A10, and I was like, man, I was really high on them. So that one kind of the Mormons broke my heart a little bit there. Just kidding. I love you guys. And then to top it that, BYU then beats Wisconsin. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because I had Wisconsin going pretty deep into the tournament. And those dang Cougars. But
That was a close game
I
too,
would
wasn't it?
oh
Yeah.
yeah. It was 1-89.
Oh shoot.
And Tanji played out of his mind. But BYU has been clicking. I think the first game they scored 81. Is that right? Oh, 80 to 71, and then they scored 91 points against Wisconsin. So it's very clear that they score the basketball. So if they get out hot, and even if because it looks like they play the winner of St. Mary's in Alabama, that's going to be a good one. So keep your eye on that one later in the week. What else we got? And then obviously, being in Connecticut, Uconn losing today. A little bit of irony because I did pick Florida to win it all. Even though I was rooting for Uconn to win. My bracket's pretty much done anyway. No one should ever listen to me about a bracket ever again. I will say that on the air. I don't care.
I won't. Don't worry.
And also, live update. Colorado State is beating Maryland by 7 at halftime. So, did not have Colorado State. So, that's just all you need to know about how my bracket's going. But yeah. But I would say the team that's impressed me the most would be BYU. I would say.
Okay. Yes, we watched some of the BYU game yesterday against Wisconsin, and I will say I have to agree. I did not see this coming from BYU. It seems like every game they had on national television, they did not shoot well. So I was not really inclined to pick them over some of the teams they were playing. But again, I will sit up here with Nick and I will eat crow. I did not have BYU either. Again, I listened to Nick. But, I think we're all just learning for next year. Don't listen to Nick. But
Yep.
but
Football, sure. Basketball, no.
but watch the games. I think we've had a lot of good ones. I'm going to jump in on this too because I thought week 1 we had a lot of really good games. And the game I'm going to say stood out the most to me, and not because it was a good game, but because I did call it, and I've been on this bandwagon all year about St. John's. They won the Big East. They won the Big East tournament, but the one thing we've been saying is they can't shoot a lick. And they lost in the second round, just like we said they would, to either Kansas or Arkansas. And your best player went 3 of 17. Unacceptable.
And
But at the
Ben,
same time,
I don't
but at
think
the
there's
same
any Big
time,
East teams left.
there aren't. At the same time, not surprising. You know, we put all this hype on people. People put all the hype on St. John's. They can't shoot. They had a mediocre, suspect out of conference schedule, and a good chunk of their wins came from the Big East. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're beating teams that you see 2 and 3 times a year. And you have a more experienced team where you've seen those teams 2 and 3 times a year. The same players have seen them. So it's not like you came up with freshmen and beat all these teams and we actually can look forward to something different. No. You lost to a Arkansas team that you could say debatable, maybe shouldn't have been in the tournament, but they were. And as a 2 seed, you should have won that game. Closer to your home court than Arkansas, because I believe the game, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt or Nick, but I believe it was played in Providence. And last time I checked, Providence is a lot closer to New York City than Arkansas is. So you had the home court advantage over that team. So that would be my
yes,
game.
the game was in Providence.
What's up?
The game was in Providence.
It was in Providence. So,
It was.
that's basically home court for you, and you blew it. Not surprised, based off what I've been saying all year. It's a non-shooting team. They can't shoot. And your best player, sadly to say the Big East player of the year after the way he looked, went 3 of 17.
No.
Unacceptable. But back on to what I was going to say after that to tag on. Were there any players that stood out to you guys? I'm going to go first because we actually already touched on him, and I want to make sure neither one of you say who it is. John Tunji out of Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin lost to BYU, but we were watching that game at the bar. This kid is the truth. I'm not sure. I know I've been on Walter Clayton's bandwagon, and I'm not getting off. But if there was ever another guard out there that would make me believe, it would be this kid. Every time BYU hit a 3, this kid would make a big shot or make the pass or get the steal. And he finished the game with an NCAA leading 37 points on phenomenal shooting numbers. And he got to the free throw line, I think, 16 times and made 14 or 15, something like that. This kid played amazing. I would actually say go find the YouTube video of him and watch it. It was a pleasure to watch. So that would be my kid to watch. Unfortunately, he missed a game-winning shot or game-tying shot at the end of the game. I would have drawn up a different play, but they didn't have any timeouts. I'm not mad at it. The way he played the whole game, it was his decision to take. But to me, he's my player of the tournament right now, and it's kind of upsetting that he's no longer in it because he was a pleasure to watch.
I'll go
And
with Tyrese Proctor. Someone
okay,
that didn't shoot well, towards the end of the season has come in and he's only missed 3 threes this whole tournament so far. When he was playing Mount St. Mary's, he had 19 points. He went 6 of 8, 6 of 9 overall. 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 6 of 9 And then
Mhm.
just today, he was 9 of 10, 7 of 8 from 3, 25 points. And it's not like Duke needs it right now, but the fact that he is hopefully not showing this too early in the tournament, I think right now he's the player of the tournament. Whether you, granted, they're playing against, they got a pretty favorable bracket in the beginning, but still, Baylor's not the easiest team, not the hardest team, but he showed up. So if you're going to continue showing up, now's the time, right? So that's my player of the tournament. I had a backup player, which was Walter Clayton, but
Mhm.
again, when the money was on the line and you were down, he was there to. It just seemed like towards the end of the game he couldn't miss. Whether it was a three, drive into the hoop, getting an and one, he was there. So he's the real deal too.
Kid's nice. It took him about, what is he, third year? I think he's a junior. He's finally showing up in the NCAA tournament. It's a good sign. You're right. They don't need him, but for his sake and his draft sake, I hope he keeps shooting this well because he is a good player. Nick, who are we looking at?
I had two in mind. The first person that I'm going to pick is a team for some reason they're pretty quiet right now, but I'm going to pick Darian Williams of Texas Tech.
Okay.
He's having a pretty good year. He's averaging about 30 minutes a game, about 15 points, shoots 44.5%, 35 from the three. Um, First round against UNC Wilmington, had an okay game, 13 points, 9 boards. But then yesterday against Drake, dropped 28, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, shot 61% from the floor. 3-point shooting, not so great, but he turned it up. And I think Texas Tech right now is a pretty quiet team at the moment. They're going to the Sweet 16. They're playing Arkansas, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a pretty good matchup for him. He could have another big game to propel Texas Tech. So he'd be one. And I hate to ride the bandwagon here, but the box office attraction of college basketball, I'm going to pick Cooper Flag. When he rolled that ankle, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. How much time was he going to miss? Turns out he only missed 2 games, right, in the ACC tournament. He shows up for Mount St. Mary's in the first round, albeit didn't play a whole lot, but played high quality basketball. I think they said he was like a plus 30 efficiency on the court. He still finished with 14 points, 7 boards, 4 assists, 2 blocks in just 20 minutes. Like he just puts in work. And then today against Baylor, Proctor had a huge game, but Cooper Flag I don't think is still 100% just yet. But even then, 18 points, 9 boards, 6 assists on 7 of 9 from the line, 5 of 11 overall. When Cooper Flag is 100%, which he's pretty much revving up to be 100%, I cannot wait to see what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know who they're playing next round yet? Or, oh no, they're playing the winner of Oregon and Arizona. So
Exactly.
that could be a high flying game in general. I expect Cooper Flag to get over 30 minutes, and it's pretty much full go at that point from there, and he is going to take over. What's my name? Cooper Flag. And unfortunately, we're only going to get so we're going to Sweet 16, so you're going to get maybe 4 more games of Cooper Flag in college. So enjoy it while you can.
Watch it while you can see it.
Exactly. And hopefully he's not a Washington Wizard next year, but that's later on, and that's an argument for another day.
Oh,
But
that's all where the
yeah,
ping pong balls go, right?
yes, exactly.
Well, being in New
Exactly.
England, we're hoping they go to Brooklyn, but I guess they can. You're right. It is where the ping pong balls
So
go.
much fun. But
Um,
yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. 4 more games left.
So what just happened in the Alabama St. Mary's game is St. Mary's blocked a shot twice, the same shot. It got tipped on the way up, and then the center for St. Mary's blocked it again, and it counted as a goaltend, but they just had like 5 minutes of review time and ended up being turned over. So they blocked the same shot twice. Just thought that was kind of funny.
You know, we're out here giving some players some love, so I'd be remiss if I didn't give two more players some love. Let's go to Houston, and we'll give LJ Cryer. Oh my God, I'm gonna butcher his last name. This LJ Cryer. Is it LJ? RJ. It was LJ. Cryer some love. This guy is only two people have scored over 30 points in the tournament, and he is one of them from what we've seen so far. And Houston, if you haven't watched, has been on a tear. You know, I think the last few years we've watched Houston, and we could say, you know, they may have let us down. They didn't play up to expectation. They couldn't handle the pressure, and they folded when they shouldn't. If you've not watched Houston, they are on a mission, and I think a lot of people had Gonzaga beating them. So to me, them beating Gonzaga means that they're going to go a little further in the tournament. I think they finally turned the corner. Full disclosure, do I have them winning? No. But do I have them going pretty far? Yes. And LJ Cryer will be the reason that team goes as he goes. And the second person is, I mean, we've said his team multiple times. Richie Saunders out of BYU. He is shooting the lights out. If you don't know the name, know it. Watch it. BYU, Richie Saunders. Player to watch. So those are mostly
why
our
the Ole Miss basketball game is being delayed.
Is there a game on their court right now?
Oh, that might be the case, right? Because the
Right.
original start time was 7:20, and now it's 8:20.
They are playing in Milwaukee, so the question would be who's on the court right now.
Well, the only active games right now is Colorado State versus Maryland and St. Mary's, Alabama.
Yeah.
So, did one game just end though?
Bama's about to end.
Are the women's played in the same arenas as the men's?
No, here it is right here. So Illinois and Kentucky played on the court. So you get about 20 minutes after every game to warm up. So
Illinois
being that
Kentucky
game
ended a while ago.
You get 20 minutes after that time to warm up. So if the game was scheduled for whatever, it's got to be pushed back a few minutes. So that's probably why that
It
game
got
was
pushed an
pushed back.
hour.
There's no one on the court. There could be a leak in the roof. I don't know. We're not there.
I didn't know if Nick
You'd have
had
to
his
Google.
insider information. He gets
Yeah.
tweets before Adam Schefter.
Well, I will have you know that I am in Wisconsin. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I could maybe check. Well, it said it's Ole Miss and Iowa State, right?
Yeah, it was just supposed to start. I'm gonna have the game go.
Um,
It looks like it's starting now. Actually, they're on the court.
Well, yeah, it's 8:20.
So it sounds like Matt's a fibber.
Exactly.
How?
He didn't know what time it was.
Because you
What?
fibbed.
It says
You got caught
the
fibbing.
original start time was 7:20.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
Oh, all right.
I'm sure something went on. I don't know. Who knows?
Anyway,
As long as they're
sorry
playing
for
now.
the distraction. I was just getting nervous because the longer the game sits, the less confident I am in my bet.
Oh yeah, I have one going too. I forgot.
Anyway, back on topic.
Yes.
Since we talked about players that we were excited to see, is there a player that you expected more from and you just didn't get it? Anyone let you down this tournament so far? Nick, I'm gonna start with you.
I can go first.
Yeah.
Yes. Liam McNeely.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. Sorry. I listen. I know it's a very fresh wound. I'm going there. Because
be kind. We're trying to get people to watch.
I know, and I know Liam McNeely is a great player. I've seen it. He shared the court with Cooper Flagg. Now I don't know if Cooper Flagg just rubbed off on McNeely, but from what I saw from him in the regular season, he's a very good player when he wants to be. But what I saw from McNeely in the Big East tournament and in the 2 NCAA games, something just wasn't there. His shot was off. He just didn't seem as aggressive. He couldn't corral a rebound late in the game today, which were pretty pivotal. Like, we needed to get those. And I know he's a freshman, right? He's still a kid. So, and there's a lot, it's the biggest game of his life. But, for someone that was pretty highly touted coming out of high school to join a 2-time defending national champion, the expectation is extremely high. And I don't think he really hit the mark in the postseason this year. I know he's scheduled to be a top pick in the draft, but if I would, I don't want to say it because I'm not his agent or nothing, but I would recommend him to play another year at UConn. I don't think he's completely ready just yet. But I would say McNeely was a letdown.
That was the guy I was going to go with too, was McNeely. Hand in hand with Caravan, just because at the end of the game, Johnson cut to the hoop wide open, was going to cut it down to, I think, a 1-point game. And it, as Cam and I had discussed earlier, there was multiple times throughout the game where McNeely or Caravan didn't pass the ball to the wide open cut. It would have been an easy point. They settled for the 3 a little bit too much. And when you shoot like 25% from 3 against a team like Florida, who was at number 1, who looked like they were overmatched for the majority of the second half. McNeely, or I think it was Caravan, went up for a reverse layup when he could have just put it in, and McNeely disappointed with the fact that he didn't shoot very well, and it didn't seem like his decision making was the best today. So lots of turnovers in the end, and I agree with Nick. I don't really have much to add to it.
No. Again, Liam McNeely, you got to do better, dude. All-American high school player, play with Cooper Flag on what some are saying, arguably one of the best Mount Verde teams to ever play. And you lay a goose egg. I'm not sure we can do any better than that. I actually have 2 people that I'm going to talk about that let me down. Again, I didn't pick either one of these teams, but I expected more. The first one is PJ Haggerty out of Memphis. You went 7 of 23, my guy. You had a great non-conference schedule. I believe Memphis won the American. And you lost in the first round to Colorado State. If there was ever a perfect draw for Memphis to go deep in the tournament, this would have been it. And the fact that they didn't pull it off, it is just a letdown. Penny Hardaway, great player.
Who's their main guard too? Hunter, right? Hunter's on that team?
No. Unless he didn't play.
Because I watched Memphis earlier this season. They got upset by Wichita. So I had a feeling that this was coming.
Well, no, I didn't have them winning either. But, watching their schedule, they did beat a lot of decent teams. This is a team that beat Michigan State. You beat Uconn by 2. You beat Michigan State out in Maui. Uconn out in Maui. You've played pretty well. You beat Clemson. You beat a lot of tourney teams. So they beat Ole Miss. So to have the schedule that they had and the opportunity that they had, and not that Colorado State's a bad team. A lot of people picked them to beat Memphis. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the way the bracket broke out is that all you had to do was win your first game. And not that it would have been easy sledding. It's not. But then you had an opportunity to do something that I don't think a Memphis team has done since Derrick Rose was at Memphis. I mean, look at it. You have Memphis in the first, Colorado State. Then you play Maryland. You match up pretty well with Maryland. And then after that, obviously you play Florida. That'd be an issue. But the opportunity is there for you to at least get to that opportunity. And for you to lose in the first round, unacceptable. Well, not unacceptable, but disappointing. And the next player would be, you know where I'm going with this, RJ Lewis out of St. John's. You are the 2 seed in the West region, and you lose in the second round. You are the first major seed to lose. I'm not talking about a 12-5, I'm talking, or a 13-4. I'm talking about top 8 team. You lost because you didn't show up. And I think that to me is, we're sitting here watching him apologize. I let my team down. You did let your team down. But you can have an off shooting night. And anyone who knows sports should know, yes, we keep track of scoring. It is one of the most important things. But the most important thing is to be a good teammate. If the shot's not falling for you, basketball's not one-dimensional. Do something else. Be the person who sets people up. Be the assist guy. Set good screens. Rebound. What else can you do to contribute during the game? That is where I look at for him. And he had no assists. You had no assists. So you not only did you not shoot well, you didn't help anybody else shoot decently either. Now, don't get me wrong. Aaron Scott was awful too. He shot 1 of 10. Not good. And Simon Welker was awful also. It's a real team effort on losing here. 1 of 5 from him. But RJ Lewis was the player of the year in the conference. We'd expect more. So to me, that's my letdown player. I'm not going to go in on him because we'll be here all night talking about how I don't like St. John's or how he basically choked on the biggest stage. But I don't need to say that out loud. He's home right now. He'll figure it out.
Tyrese Hunter was out for Memphis, so that was big for them. Hardaway should have stepped up a little bit more, but
Haggerty. Yeah, no, you can miss players, but it's still a reason to win games. Players were out during the regular season and you still win. And it's not like we're looking like, oh, they got blown out by a Duke or an Auburn or Houston. Again, no disrespect to Colorado State. They played great. I picked them to win anyway, with or without Hunter. But you had an opportunity. You were awarded a 5 seed. You should have played a better game and found a way to win. Sorry. That's what the tournament's all about. People stepping up. No one stepped up. On their end, at least. All right, let's step away from the tournament real quick because my emotions are getting high after talking about St. John's sucking and Uconn losing. Let's step into the association, my friends. And just a quick update. I don't know if you guys know this, but Cleveland is the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They have just lost 4 straight games to teams I don't think they should have lost to with their full roster. Nick, let me ask you first. Is the East wide open or is there a clear-cut favorite?
So I'm going to try to answer this as a 2-pronged answer. No, the Eastern Conference is not wide open. And no, there is no clear-cut single favorite. I think the Eastern Conference comes down to 3 teams. Cleveland, Boston, and Milwaukee would be the 3 teams that I think take the Eastern Conference. I just think matchup-wise, the rest of the conference doesn't add up. I know people want to, well, what about the Knicks? Knicks have 6 players on their roster that play. Thibodeau, its system, it doesn't work. And you see when they play Cleveland, when they play Boston, when they play contenders, they become pretenders. If I were to pick one, I would if a fully healthy Boston team to me is the best team in the conference. Um, but to me, I mean, I guess maybe you could maybe argue Detroit can make some noise, but they're a little young. Um, but yeah, I would say Cleveland, Boston, Milwaukee are your three going for the Eastern Conference at least. I don't think any other team in the East touches them in a 7-game series.
Okay. Are you concerned with the losing streak of what we feel is probably the best team in the East, or do you feel like it's just long season? It happens.
Um, I mean, yes and no. You want to be playing your best ball this time of year, right? The regular season ends in a couple of weeks, so the best time to get healthy is right before playoffs, and the best time to be playing your best basketball is April. So I do think Cleveland also. The thing with them, they are having for their standards, they're having a historic season. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of, I think they've had two separate 15-game winning streaks,
Yeah.
and they've had a 12-game winning streak on top of that. So when they're hot, they're hot. And right now, they are in a cold stretch for sure.
They just beat
I
Utah today.
Yes, they did. So they did get out of their funk. They lost to Orlando at home, at the Clippers, at the Kings, at the Suns. So they were on a West Coast trip against some decent teams. The Clippers, and they're kind of hanging around the playoffs. The Suns are a potential play-in team, I believe, or at least they're fighting for their playoff lives.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost to teams that are trying to play for something, and even Orlando they lost by 5. Sacramento they lost by 4. So two of those losses were close. So it could just be Orlando got the better of them that day. LA got the better of them that day. They just played 4 straight games on the road. They're on the road again Tuesday at Portland.
Mm-hmm.
But as Matt said, them winning by 20 plus today, I think they're steering it back into the right direction. I think they'll be fine um, as they close out the season. So definitely we wanted to open the eye a little bit, like what's going on, Cleveland? What's going on, right? But I think they'll be okay.
Matt, what do you think?
I'm leaning towards what Nick said. I have some disagreements on his opinions. But there's two top heavy teams here, and it's Cleveland by surprise. I don't think anybody expected Cleveland to be this good this year. I thought it was going to be Boston and then the Knicks at number 2, but the Knicks
Oh.
have obviously disappointed. That's my preseason prediction because I thought Cleveland was just peaking early when they went on their first 15-game winning streak. I'm like, yeah, this can't keep up. And as Nick said, they went on another 15-game winning streak, and they beat Boston. They had to come back and beat Boston, but they still beat them. The thing is I don't know if Cleveland, after being so red hot for so long, if they were just not taking these sort of mid-level teams seriously, and that happens. But again, when you get to the playoffs, it's a 7-game series. So I do think that it is Cleveland and Boston, but if there were two teams to make noise, I don't think Milwaukee's one of those teams. I have watched them several times, and you know, I if we could look at Milwaukee's past few games, uh, they they beat the Lakers, they beat the Kings, they lost to the Warriors, they lost to the Thunder, but they also lost to Orlando. And I've watched a lot of Orlando this year, and I'm actually pretty big on Orlando now that, Banchero's kind of taking the lead role on that team. And they've kind of snuck up from the bottom. I also like Detroit. They've were in a play-in spot not too long ago, and they've just been getting hot. Cade Cunningham with his buzzer beater the other night was awesome. And do I think that there's any room for any of those teams to win? No, unless one of the big two magically, knock on wood that it doesn't happen, somehow gets a catastrophic injury. But we've also seen Boston, who is my particular favorite for this. I don't think Cleveland is going to get into the finals this year. Boston, when Jaylen Brown is out or Jason Tatum is out, we've seen Pritchard go and get 40. You've seen Derek White go and get 40. Kristaps Porzingis is a walking bucket. Al Horford still got it. They got Hauser shooting the three ball. I mean, they're pretty live and die by the three, but when it's hot, it's hot. And if you got 5 or 6 people on your team that can go and get 40 on any given night, you got a good thing. You got a good thing going on that team, man.
Okay, I can see that. So the East is we're kind of in the top 4 roughly. You guys feel the Cleveland, Boston, New York, and Milwaukee-ish, those 4?
Nick likes Milwaukee. I don't. I personally think that Milwaukee is the classic Doc Rivers team. Expected to go far and won't.
Okay. Nick, Matt basically touched on it. He doesn't think Cleveland's going to go. How far do you feel Cleveland will go? Not can they go? Obviously, they can win it all. They have the talent. But how far do you feel they can go with the roster presently constructed as is?
So like I mentioned before, I don't believe they beat a fully healthy Boston team in a 7-game series with Boston having home court. So, and Boston is the one, or is Cleveland?
Cleveland
Well,
right now.
Boston does not have home court. They are 5 games behind.
5 games behind. Okay, so
That's a lot of games to make up at this time too.
Yeah, true. So if Cleveland holds on, the question then becomes, do we believe, because we've seen Cleveland beat Boston in Boston, do we believe that the Celtics can win twice in Cleveland? I personally think they can if they're fully healthy. Like Matt said, barring some catastrophic injury, I don't see anyone but those 3 or 4 teams going to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody's available, I would take the Celtics over the Cavs. Do I think the Cavs get to the conference finals? I think they can, so long as they don't play Milwaukee in the second round. I think Milwaukee can beat Cleveland in a 7-game series. Call me crazy, I know.
No,
But
the thing is
they,
that like the Cleveland is more matchup based because they can lose to any team. Boston seems to have an answer for anybody.
exactly, especially when they're fully healthy.
Yes.
But I will never discount Giannis and Damian Lillard in the Eastern Conference, especially if they're the 3. Which are they the 3 right now? Let me see the standings.
I think the Knicks are still the 3.
Knicks are still the 3.
Yeah.
Do we know when Brunson's coming back?
He's out. He's out another week. They said today.
Yeah, but you guys have an
So
easy-ish stretch for the next 2 games at least. You got
So
the Mavericks and Clippers, but then you face the Bucks, so that's a big game.
that is a big game, and the Bucks are actually sitting at the 5.
One game behind Indiana.
Right. So they would have to go to. I think they can beat the Pacers, regardless.
The Pacers, man, they're impressive.
So if they were to beat the Pacers round 1, would they play Cleveland or Boston?
At the 4, they would play Cleveland.
If they're the 5, well, 5-4, so they would play
5-4.
Cleveland.
They would play Cleveland.
I think you could see Boston, Milwaukee as your conference finals.
I can see
that's
that.
my pick.
I would
That's what
be
I'm going
higher on Indiana because they got a team full of walking buckets, and the name was it Nemhard is just a nightmare on defense. But again, it's too flaky. Like Halliburton isn't consistent.
No.
No.
And I think that's the question in the East right now is, one, I know Cleveland's had multiple 15-game win streaks. How good are they really? Can we trust them? And Boston just has to be all healthy at the same time, which we're assuming for playoffs they will be. Before we go to the West, I want to ask this question because I wrote it down while you guys were talking. Do you sit players knowing that you may want in Boston's case, healthy players for the playoffs, or do you just ride it out and hope? I'm gonna start with you, Matt.
Give me 2 seconds here. Uh, I'd say no. Maybe this would be the time where you go and, like we discussed a couple weeks ago about load management. If they have a back-to-back, you might want to start sitting them just because there's no back-to-backs in playoffs.
Mm-mm.
There's sometimes a 2 game, like a 1 day break, and there's sometimes a 2 day break. Really depends. It
Mhm.
seems like the Lakers always get the 3 day break. Um,
Facts.
but to get healthy, you might actually want to get them some reps in the G League just to keep their
Oh,
shot up. Get them
oh,
moving. They don't have to play super hard. They're not going to be playing against NBA, fully like loaded NBA rosters. Just warm them up, get them back in sort of game shape. Let them get a couple of end of the season games, and then go in the playoffs healthy. As a coach, that's what I would do.
I will say that is a very interesting take. I've never heard that, and I don't think I'm opposed to it. To be honest with you, if you need to ramp your players up, why not ramp them up in the G League? And that's not a bad decision. You know what? We will revisit that. I'm going to write that down because
It's
I
kind of
think
like
we will.
what. Oh, sorry, Cam. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying we will. It's kind of like what the Mavs are doing, but
Mm.
we will revisit that down the road. Not today, but that is a very good. Um,
The Mavs have a G League team.
they
I think
just sent
every team has a G League team.
I know, but
they
the
just
Mavs had no
sent
roster. They almost had to forfeit games. I thought they had to pull everybody up from the G League.
well, no,
Oh yeah, yeah.
they sent um Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, and somebody else to the G League to start ramping up.
Did they really?
hmm
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they were going to shut Anthony Davis down for the rest of the season.
I think they should, but
I
if you
think
make
they
the
should too.
playoffs, you have an option.
That's true.
You know,
I was gonna
they're
say,
go ahead.
sorry, I was just saying, if they were to do that, it'd be kind of similar to like, I know this is off topic, but a lot of times when baseball teams have players rehabbing injuries and stuff and ramping up, they will have them play for their minor league teams
hmm
to get them going. So it'd be kind of similar. So it's
That's
not a
where I
bad
was.
idea.
That's where I was getting the idea from, Nick. I should have said
Yeah,
it, but I'm glad you filled it in.
No, I
gotcha.
think that's a great suggestion. I wonder why. Maybe it's a fan thing. We treat the G League or D League, whatever you want to call it, as taboo. Like once you go to the NBA, it's looked down upon to go down. I think we should look at it almost like you said, like baseball does. Go get your reps in the G League playing people who aren't, knock on wood, as physical or as talented as the people you're going to be playing basically every night just to get your stamina back. You know, obviously, I don't think it makes sense. And this is probably where you could play around with Anthony Davis. It doesn't make sense to send Steph to the G League. It doesn't make sense to send LeBron to the G League. It doesn't make sense to send Kevin Durant to the G League. Even if you are ramping up, on your worst night, ramped up, not ramping, you're still better than almost every player there. So I don't think you send, and Anthony Davis, I can make the argument for too. But I, with
You don't
his
want to
injury
send him.
history,
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say you don't want to send Anthony Davis to the. If he gets injured in the G League, that's just gonna be bad.
yeah, I think with his injury history, yeah, you just throw him in. But you know that's an interesting take. I would have never thought of that. We will revisit that because I would like to dwell on it and look into this.
1 sec before you or Nick go. Ole Miss, just an update on the game. Ole Miss is on a 14-2 run, and they took the lead. It's 21-17 right now, with 9 minutes remaining in the first.
hmm Thank you, Ole Miss. You are going to ruin my bracket even more than it already is. So, but no, I actually, while we're on the update bandwagon, I got my eye on the Colorado State Maryland game. So I
Yep.
need Maryland to pull this out.
Mm.
They're creeping
Uh,
back in it.
yeah, they're only down two.
Yeah. So let's go, Maryland, pull this out. And if you didn't know, now you know. Also on Maryland, Derek Queen, Played at Mount Verde with Cooper Flagg and Liam McNeely. Maryland Terrapin. I'm plugging Mount Verde real quick.
Shout out to Mount Verde.
Shout out to Mount Verde. I think they're looking for a
Please
new
subscribe.
coach. Call me. I'll coach the team. Can't be that hard to coach 5 of the top 10 high school basketball players in the country who are all over 6'8". So give me a call. Let's go back to the association. All right, so we talked about the East. Let's go West.
Oh, Nick didn't get to go on what he would do with the unless he didn't have anything to say.
Oh, my fault. Nick.
No, you're
speak.
good. Speak. I'll make it quick. I think it depends on the seeding. So for example, Boston is the 2 right now, right?
Yes.
Let's say if they want to maintain the 2, I think they keep playing. If they know they can't fall any lower, then I think at that point you could sit a couple of games. And maybe you try to win some games to avoid playing some other teams in the first round. I know that could be a factor.
Let me throw a wrench in there real quick, Nick, before you're done.
Yep.
They are 8 games ahead of the Knicks.
Yep.
So I get it, but I don't think they're going to go on a 9-game losing streak. So
yeah, I don't think so either.
So keep that in mind. Just throwing that out there. Continue.
Yeah, I know. I'm just hypothetical though. I mean, just an example. So maybe like, for example, the Pacers are probably going to want to try to win some games. Do they want to play the Bucks at the 5, or if they can try to get the 3 seed, they'd play the Pistons. So it's kind of like, who do we match up with better kind of vibe. I think that might be the thought process when it comes to resting some players this time of year for those middle seeds. Obviously, if you're playing, you're playing for your season, so you're not sitting. 1s and 2s get a little bit more flexibility. Cleveland and Boston right now, so it's kind of coach's discretion, I guess, at that point, because their spots are pretty much secured. So,
yeah, no, it's an interesting question. Boston and Cleveland, I don't feel will fall out of their respective spots. But do you sit players or send them to the G League? I think those are questions that we're going to ask. Especially if somebody gets hurt, the question will be: do we sit? Why did they play? So it's food for thought on the East. I think the East is kind of wrapped up. I think we have our top 6 seeds are where they are, and the play-in is now truly a play-in. I think Atlanta, Orlando, Chicago, and Miami can go anywhere from 7 to 10. So we'll figure there are only 4 games really separate them. So, and there's about 12 left, I think. 10 to 12 games left. So it'll be a great end of the season, and then playoffs to see how our predictions go. Moving out west, OKC is 12 games up on, surprise, surprise, Houston for the 2nd spot. Do we feel that it's OKC's Western Conference 1 seed to lose? Obviously, they're going to get it, but do we feel it's their championship to win in the West, or do we feel that there are teams seeded elsewhere that could do something? Nick, what do you think? Who we watching out west?
I think the Thunder have been the most consistent team in the West all year. I mean, obviously because they're the number 1 seed. Shea's going to be the MVP, in my opinion. Dude, you want to talk about a bucket? Mr. Gilgeous Alexander is multiple buckets. Yeah, I agree with the notion it's their conference to lose. But I think there are some teams that can make some noise. Obviously, Denver with the Jokic, and if Murray, can play consistently, they've been there before. They're obviously going to be a threat. Another team that I'm kind of looking at is Golden State. Steph Curry, playoff Jimmy. would not want to see them, especially if they can heat up at the. I know Curry, I think, did something to like his tailbone or something.
He fell
But I
hard.
Yes,
think
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be okay though. So as long as the Warriors avoid the play-in, they can make some. They can make a run. Because right now your play-in in the West is 7 through 10 is Clippers, Timberwolves, Kings, and Suns. I don't know if the Kings can realistically, make a run in the West. I think the Clippers are just snake bitten historically. Um, Obviously the Timberwolves got Ant Man. They got Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, and the Suns, of course, with Booker, KD, Bradley Beal. So, but to me, if I were to say anybody that could give OKC a run, I'd pick either Denver or Golden State. Even though I want to say the Lakers because they got Luca, but they don't have the bigs to go up with OKC for a 7-game series. So I would say Denver or Golden State to me would be, or if somehow Phoenix could turn it up, and play like what we believe they could be, that would be the only other team. But I think that's a stone's throw. So based on what we've seen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's more OKC's to win, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that we could have matchups that could make for a very intriguing playoff out west. I mean, if you look at the play-in teams, Houston is sitting at 2. I'm not sure I pick Houston to beat the Clippers, the Timberwolves in the first round. So it's a very interesting matchup to see how this could pan out. I'm intrigued, and I think the West is stacked as it is. I think OKC has just separated themselves from the pack. Matt, what are you feeling out west? Do you feel it's OKC's to lose, or do you feel Luca and LeBron are going to shock the world?
The thing is the West is so loaded, and like 2 through 6 are all super tight in terms of like 1 week the Lakers are at 2, then Denver was at 2. Houston snuck in there quietly at 2. They're just sitting there like looking at their roster, it's just like I'm not impressed by their roster on paper, but they're playing really well together. Fred VanVleet, when he was in Toronto, I enjoyed watching him play. Dylan Brooks, I'm not a fan of by far. I think they have Jalen Green too. Uh, but my team is the thing with OKC is, and this is what happened last year in the playoffs because they have a very similar team this year. What happened last year in the playoffs is Shea Gilgeous is a walking bucket. He's going to give you what he gives you every night. It's like it feels like the guy can just drop 40 every night if he wanted to. When you have Chet in and out of the lineup and you have Wallace inconsistently shooting, you don't always have that number 2 guy that's going to come with Shea. And it's like at any given night, I mean, I think they have maybe the most games over 130 this season. That is a guess because most of their games hit the over. But you got Jalen Williams who's gone for 40, but again, not consistently. Shea is the best player on their team, and there's no question about that. They got Isaiah Hardenstein. For the Lakers, that might be an issue if they have Chet and I would put if I was facing the Lakers as OKC, I'd put Chet and Hardenstein on the floor at the same time. But that's neither here nor there. Who am I? Biasly, I'm going to say the Lakers are the most dangerous. Um, Only because you know Luca can deal with Denver practically by himself. He could deal with the Clippers by himself. We've seen him deal with OKC, but OKC uh, again, I'm not sold on OKC. Minnesota is dangerous. Sacramento is just that play-in team that could be dangerous on any given night. Phoenix, I honestly don't know what's wrong with them because they should be like a 3 or a 4 seed.
Hmm.
Now, Golden State, obviously they need Steph back to do any damage, but it's all matchup based in the West. I don't know if I don't think I'd have Houston beating anybody but the Clippers and the Kings in the first round.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they're a real 2 seed. I think Denver's better. I think the Lakers are better. I think Memphis is better. Memphis has taken a step back because I think at one point they were the 2 seed recently.
Hmm.
Golden State is definitely better. It's just the Houston is surprisingly good, and it's nice to see. But I don't think they're a real playoff team. I wouldn't. I might put my money that they'll get swept.
Oh, that's aggressive.
I might do it. It really depends on who they end up playing. Because if they end up playing Memphis, maybe. If they play the Lakers or Golden State, I think they're getting swept.
It's funny because I think that if you look at why some of those teams fell out of the 2 spot, Memphis went through some injuries with John Morant and Jared Jackson Jr. The Lakers lost LeBron for a little bit.
Hachimura.
Achimura. Denver was playing without Jokic and Murray. Golden State just had Steph. The Clippers aren't play. They were playing without Norman Powell for a long time, and Minnesota was playing without Gobert. So it's funny because if you think about it, the Rockets have played well all year, and they won 46 games, and they're in the 2nd seed. Other teams have won less games, but they've been playing injured for a good chunk of the year. So when the playoffs come, it's going to be interesting to see who they play because they will have a healthy team, which I don't think, like you said, people are going to pick them to win. And it's funny you said that because I just got NBA app. Jalen Green, 20 points. Number 2 Rockets trail Jamal Murray, 30 points. And the number 3 Denver Nuggets, 96-79
Oh,
going
that's
into the
happening
4th quarter.
live?
Yeah.
Okay.
So really funny. We were just talking about them. When healthy, I'm not sure they're the 2 seed. So interesting thought process there.
Oh, wow. Jamal Murray's got 34,
Yeah. So
and Jokic isn't playing.
exactly my point. So and the Rockets probably have their full roster.
And they're winning by 14. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, how good are they really? I want to tag onto this spot because I'm seeing a lot of stuff say the Lakers are the second best team in the West, but we're sitting at the 4 seed. Real quick, because this was not going to be a topic. Nick, I'm going to start with you because I know Matt's going to rant on about Luka. If we look at this as strictly look at their roster, this is their roster, allowing for Luka's greatness, allowing for LeBron's greatness. Matt, how far can the Lakers go?
They'll go to the finals.
Not Matt. Nick, how far can they go?
You know,
Not looking at a fan.
I,
As a fan.
I am not a Laker fan. I am a Knick fan. Don't know why. Sometimes,
No, you like
but
torture.
yeah, I guess. Um, Looking at it objectively, I think the I think the Lakers could make the conference finals, but I don't know if they have enough to beat Oklahoma City. And I got to tell you, I want to see it happen so badly, just so that Nico Harrison could feel the pinch even more. You know, just for the karma of getting rid of who, in my opinion, will be one of the 5 most prolific scorers in the history of basketball when all said and done. So I want to see it happen really badly. But I don't know if it actually does happen. I think they could easily win one series I think the Lakers beat the Grizzlies in a 7-game series if they were to play them first round or
Mhm.
5. And then if that's the case, they would probably run into OKC second round, actually, maybe. So if there's a way for them to somehow get the 3 and then they can play Houston second round, they'll go to the conference finals.
Okay, I could see that.
But I don't know if they win the championship because they'll get steamrolled by Boston in a 7-game series with Boston having home court. They just don't have enough to compete with Boston.
Yeah, Boston's kind of stacked. I don't know how they work that out with their salary cap, but some way, somehow.
I don't know, man.
All right, Matthew, bring on the Luca charm. How far can they go?
All right. They'll go as far as Luca takes them. Luca is, I think, this has the second highest average in the playoffs, especially on the road, next to the GOAT, Michael Jordan.
You saved it.
Yeah, why would I say LeBron?
I'm just saying.
Anyway, LeBron is the second greatest player of all time. Still in the NBA, still playing at probably the best 40-year-old player you've ever seen. I mean, he looks like he's still in his 30s, low 30s, maybe late 20s for some of these average players. Like he's playing above a average player at 40, and he's the second best player in the Lakers, and he's probably still arguably top 10 in the league. You get to see Luka take over for 75% of the game, and then LeBron just cooks in the fourth quarter. You haven't seen that since like LeBron's rookie year where he's just playing through, or at least early in his career when he's just playing through 40 minutes, just giving it to you. Doesn't have to do that. You got Austin Reeves that can shoot. You got Dalton Connect, who I'm thankful that trade for Williams didn't go through because they needed an actual 3-point specialist because Austin Reeves, Luca, and LeBron, all three of them can get very hot from 3, but on a regular basis it is not consistent. Dalton Connect is brought to the team as a 3-point shooter, and I know I'm going very Lakers heavy right now, but on the road, Luca's averaging over 32 points per game in the playoffs. He turns up in the playoffs. It'll motivate LeBron. It'll motivate Austin Reeves, who's been getting better every single year. Rui Hachimura is going to come along. We've seen him get hot in the playoffs where he's gone off for like 5 threes in a row. Their size can match up because they got big wings. Rui Hachimura is like 6'8", 6'9", maybe 6'10", has a long wingspan. LeBron can guard 1 through 5. I think he could do a number on Chet and Hardenstein. I think they match up really well against OKC. The regular season without Luka even being there was good against OKC. So I think they go I personally think they go to the finals.
You know, it's funny you said that. LeBron, Austin, and Luca can get very hot from 3. I will co-sign that. But I will also co-sign that they can get very cold and ugly from 3. And to me, that is what will keep them in maybe the conference finals. Um, to me, there's a lot of holes on that team. I know we're playing great now, but when you're playing the same team potentially 5 to 6 times, you can figure weaknesses out. And at the end of the day, the biggest issue is spot up shooting. Luka's a good 3-point shooter, but he needs to get his rhythm. He's not someone to stand in the corner and hit a 3. LeBron's the same way.
Ooh, I
Austin
wish I
Reeves,
could
not so
pull
much.
up tape. I wish I could pull up tape
What?
because I've seen Luka get past the ball in the corner like 5 times in a row and drain a 3.
Okay. He's been in the league how many years and we've seen this? Because that is what we were losing. That's what we were missing in the finals last year. I'm not saying he can't hit an open 3. I'm saying in general, his game is not conducive to being standing in a corner or
You're right.
standing at the 3-point line and having the ball passed to him. his percentages are higher when he has the ball in his hand, does a little crossover, and then shoots a three. Again, not saying he can't do it, saying the percentages are higher when he doesn't do it.
Don't give me a game 7 against OKC in OKC. Luka will destroy them like he did to the Suns.
Well, first of all, a game 7 in OKC, kudos to them for getting there. But if you have a game 7 in OKC, the Lakers are not winning. Because Luka can have 30, but I will tell you right now, Mr. MVP will be showing up to make sure they win that game.
You want to put a bet on it now?
Put a bet on what? That they get to the conference championship?
No,
in a game 7?
I said if the game 7 happens, that you say Shea's going to get it done. I'm saying Luka's got it done.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's gonna. We need to make a bet on it because it's not gonna happen.
All
So I don't even think it's gonna happen. I don't even see they're gonna win the first round. So if you're
don't
playing,
think the
I
Lakers
don't
are
have
going to beat
them
the
beating.
first round.
I don't have them beating Memphis.
All right.
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the one thing I have commonly said all year about the Lakers after their trade was done, you have no big guys.
Jackson Hayes.
So you're telling me right now Jackson Hayes is your answer regarding Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Jackson, they're like 10-3 with Jackson Hayes. Without him, nothing.
So your answer regarding Jaren Jackson Jr. is Jackson Hayes.
Yep.
You're serious on this? I just want to, because we're recording live. People hear this out.
Yep.
This is his answer is Jaren Jackson Jr. is
Minimize
Jackson
him.
Hayes.
Minimize him.
How's he minimizing him?
He's going to have to put in that work on defense. That's why.
Oh my God. I can't.
He's going
I can't.
he's going to be getting nuts dragged in his face with the alley-oops all night.
Oh my goodness. Nick, you hear this, right? The defensive player of the year, 2 out of the last 3 years, is going to have his nuts dragged in his face all night. Okay. Anyway.
Hey, Luka destroyed the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. So
That's not
let's
saying
put
much.
that there. What?
That's not saying much.
Then it's not saying much.
Edwards,
It's not saying much
everyone
about Jaren Jackson
does.
Jr.
Everyone does. Everyone destroys Rudy Gobert.
Apparently
Not the Planters.
With facts, right? Everyone destroys Rudy Gobert.
Then how to get the defensive player of the year?
Do you watch the other tapes? He gets it because of his size. That's about it. He's not stopping anybody. When's the last time you saw him in a lockdown position? You ain't, because you ain't see it.
Against the Knicks.
Well, that's not hard either. Everybody plays great against the Knicks. Quick update, 45 seconds left. Colorado State, Maryland tied. I don't know who has the ball. I'm not diving into it because we're not there yet. So we're going to be a little surprised the next 45 seconds.
I'm
who
ahead
wins
of
this
you.
game.
It's 22 seconds, still tied.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
22.4 seconds.
Excuse me. They just changed the clock.
Dude, I'm about to turn on TV so I can be out of both of you, but we'll let that slide. We'll let that slide.
And it's Maryland at the free throw line.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Maryland
Not
just took the
terrible.
lead.
So we have Cleveland number 1, OKC number 1. Nick, I'm going to ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
Cleveland's played 2 more games, so we're going to assume let's assume OKC loses the next 2 games. And Cleveland and OKC have basically the same record. They're both 30-5 at home. It would be 27-29 on the road. Same identical record. Who are you taking in an NBA championships? You taking Cleveland or you're taking OKC?
Very good question.
Identical home records, identical road records.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And roster build, they're kind of, not to say similar, but if you're okay, you got Shea, you got Chet, Hartenstein. Who's the other one that they have? What's his name?
Jalen Williams.
Yes, there it is. Thank you very much. But for Cleveland, you have Donovan Mitchell, who is one of my favorite active players in the league. Garland, Jared Allen, Mobley. So kind of similar. Um, I think whoever wins that series, the difference will be who will display their greatness, Shea or Donovan Mitchell. The stars have to be stars. And I know I love watching Donovan Mitchell play. It's Shea's time right now. So I think if they were to go face to face, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe OKC would have the home court, right? Because they have the better. Well, they actually no, they have the same record. So who would get
They
home
are
court?
very close. It's 58-12 and 57-14.
Gotcha. So
So
it's going to come down to who has home court, but I would take Shea. I just think it's Shea's time.
you've got the OKC winning.
I would take OKC over Cleveland. Yes.
Okay.
I think they're a bit more complete team. And I just think his greatness would outshine Mitchell's. Not by much,
Donovan Mitchell. Donovan
but I
Mitchell,
think,
South Kent, Connecticut Prep School. Stand up.
yes, sir.
Um, Matthew Baywood. It's not the Lakers, but it's OKC
Well,
versus Cleveland.
the question should be who would win a 7-game series, the Lakers or the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I know you don't believe it's getting there, but we're gonna assume that
Oh,
you're
I
wrong and
believe
I'm
it.
right.
Oh, I believe it with all
Oh
of my
no, I
heart.
said we're gonna assume that you're wrong and I'm right for the sake of this question.
Um,
All things considered equal,
Only because I
same
know how
record.
consistent Shea is. I would say OKC. However, man, they are really similar teams when you're thinking about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
You got an equal amount of bigs and an equal amount of guards in terms of style of play.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Mitchell, I mean, Donovan Mitchell goes cold though. So can the rest of his team pick him up? I honestly haven't really watched Cleveland as closely as maybe you guys have. I've watched OKC very closely, and Shea Gilgeous just does not um, disappoint ever. So I'll just base it on that. Even though OKC's young, I'd take them.
I will say this that Cleveland does average more points per game.
That's surprising, actually. And breaking news: Colorado just hit a 3 to win. Oh well, there's 3.6
And
seconds left, but it's 71 to 70.
okay.
And Ole Miss is up double digits at halftime.
Yep.
Well,
Very nice.
why not just ruin the rest of my day? New Mexico's beating Michigan State. So we're all just happy here, aren't we? Peachy.
Oh, I think the
Um
city of Oklahoma City needs it too.
what the
The the
Championship.
championship.
let me ask you guys a question. We're going to tangent here for a little bit. I don't know, I was just thinking about basically what you said. The city of Oklahoma needs it. If Cleveland wins, in essence, they would
Mhm.
have built a really good team and won a championship, correct?
Yes.
Do
Yes.
we do we then turn around and look at LeBron having to leave as you could have stayed and this would have happened anyway? Being that now we have proof.
Can I go
What does
first on
this
this?
what does this do to LeBron? Yes.
No, because Cleveland stunk after he left for years, and they were in the lottery, and they got Garland in early in the first round. I think what did he go third overall or second overall? Because I know he was in John Morant. Was he with John Morant? I know he was with R.J. Barrett and Zion Garland. Anyway, then they had Allen there for a while, and they had to get Donovan Mitchell in free agency. I don't think I think they built that team in spite of LeBron. It wouldn't have happened with LeBron.
Um okay. More so on the fine that would you trust Cleveland to build a team, or you think they have to be bad in order to get picks to build a team? Because they did draft Kyrie and started building, and he was the 5th overall pick.
Well, this is why I'm not a LeBron fan, is because he goes into a team and he gives away all the picks, and then just to build a super team for a short period of time and win now. That's why I started watching the Mavericks instead of the Lakers for years, and then they took their balls out of their purse and they got Luca and said, "We're not telling LeBron and Anthony Davis anything."
Fair.
No, congrats to Cleveland for building this team. They definitely earned it. It's not like it was handed to them. They, what were you asking about LeBron? Like, no, I don't think if LeBron stayed there, this team would never have happened.
My point is, what I'm saying is the concept of building a team, staying and waiting, versus what he did. He left, let him build, and it came back. Do
I
you
think
think?
he's too big. Like his ego is too big for himself to stay for that. If he
Okay.
doesn't see a chance to win now, which he was struggling, he couldn't, because when he was in the East, it was he was facing Golden State every year, almost, at least towards the end. It was just Golden State. Then he had KD with Golden State. He couldn't get past them. So he's like, let me go to the Lakers and trade away all their picks, because they stunk after Kobe Bryant retired and kind of his
Mm,
last few years there. And let me trade away their team to win now. That's sort of the way LeBron, like we saw that when he left Cleveland the first time to Miami, built a super team with
mhm.
D Wade and Chris Bosh, and then he comes back and Kyrie's there because they were in the lottery again. They got Kyrie, and he came back, basically stole a championship at Cleveland. Everyone was sort of, he didn't get the biggest welcome back that he should have for his hometown, and because everyone is mad that he didn't stay with them. So
Yeah.
LeBron should have, yes, but it's a lesson to the younger generation of superstars that free agency and leaving a team to go build a super team isn't necessarily the right way. Cleveland's doing it right now. Boston did it right. OKC's in the middle of doing it right. It seems like Houston's on the right track. A lot of teams are building even Orlando.
True. True. Nick, what do you think?
Um, can you repeat the question just to clarify? Just so
Yeah,
I
no
don't go
problem.
off on a
Maryland
random
just hit
point.
a buzzer beater and won.
Okay, my bracket's happy
Get
again.
out of here. Oh my gosh.
I'm sure it'll pop up on my phone in a second. Um, so Cleveland's been building this team. They made trades, nothing crazy.
Yep.
You know, they drafted Garland. I think at the time we were
Mhm.
questioning it, but I think he's a 2-time All-Star, not a very good player. Do you think that the fact that they built this team kind of looks, I won't say looks down, but when we compare it to what LeBron did, having Kevin Love come in, obviously had nothing to do with Kyrie. Kyrie was drafted there, but having the ancillary pieces come in instead of just drafting them, waiting for them to develop. Do you feel that
Mm.
what they went through with LeBron was almost unnecessary? That if this is what their process has been, they could have got that championship either way?
Um, I could see yes and no. I think all was forgiven when they won a championship when LeBron
Mm-hmm.
came back. So it was kind of like, you know what, we won a championship. We beat the 73-9 Warriors down 3-1 in the finals. No
Mm-hmm.
team had ever won down 3-1 in the finals before that. So in essence, they will always have an etch in history. And a lot of that had to do with LeBron James returning. So, and it was the Cavs' first championship. It was the city of Cleveland's first championship since like what was it, like the 1940 something Cleveland Browns, like with Otto Graham at quarterback.
AKA the new Ravens.
Yes, the Baltimore Ravens, aka. Um, so I think when LeBron first left, it was an unprecedented way he left, right? The decision, Cleveland was heartbroken that their homegrown megastar basically ditched them. However, he returned. He said, I will win a championship in Cleveland. He fulfilled his promise. And I think, they let bygones be bygones. And that was that. Now, to say that could they have had this if you just stayed? That could also be true. But at the same time, after they won their championship, you know, it didn't feel like people wanted to go to Cleveland. So maybe LeBron had to leave again in order for Cleveland to do what they're doing. So to a degree, I think Baywood is also right in the sense of maybe this team, this iteration of the Cavaliers doesn't happen unless LeBron goes to LA. I don't know if both things, I don't think you could have the cake and eat it too kind of vibe when it comes to LeBron staying in Cleveland. I
Mm-hmm.
think he had to leave the first time because Cleveland was just not going to go anywhere as constructed. And then he comes back, makes amends by winning a championship with Kyrie, with Kevin Love, with Deladova. Not Deladova. What was his name? Yeah, Deladova, right? The Australian
Yeah.
guy.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So he wins the championship. All's forgiven, and then he leaves again. And we all knew he was going to go to LA. We figured that was like the last stop kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and without that, it's almost like to me. This is tangent time for Nick, but LeBron is one of the like butterfly effect players in basketball because a lot of things don't happen unless he leaves Cleveland the first time.
I was just gonna interrupt and go into that.
Yeah, and then when he went back and left again, it impacted so much other stuff. Like then we got the AD trade to LA, and then we got this, and we got that. You know, Boston's building a not to say an empire, but a lot has changed with the landscape of basketball, and a lot of that I think has to do with LeBron. But to answer the question, I don't think this team happens unless LeBron leaves either. I don't know if that he stays that all these like who's to say Donovan Mitchell wants to play with LeBron. I hear a lot of people saying they'd rather play against LeBron than with LeBron.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna,
throw
So
this.
I don't know.
Cam, if you don't
It's
mind.
interesting for sure.
No, Matt, you go first because I'm gonna throw a stat at you after this.
Okay.
And
So
I want to see if you both still have the same feelings after I say the stat.
Nick brought up the fact that a lot of things wouldn't have happened or might not have happened if LeBron didn't leave. I completely agree because when he came back and they won that championship in Cleveland, who was it? Draymond Green that ran outside and called KD almost immediately and was like, "We need you." The KD trade or KD going to Golden State probably never would have happened if it wasn't for LeBron beating them in their historic
Mm.
season when they were 73-9.
So, so all this happened after he came back. So let me ask you this question, because remember, there's a lot of stuff that happened for him to come back. But when he left, do you realize that they had the number one pick in 2011, 13, and 14?
Yeah.
So again, do you feel
Yep.
that you just don't have confidence in them to draft a team?
No, I have full confidence in them to draft a team.
Because 2 out of 3 of those players ended up being NBA champions. So
Yep.
that's where I'm saying, do you if you trusted the process, do you still feel Cleveland would have got to where they were, or do you feel that you needed to go get Kevin Love, you needed to
All right.
go get Josh? You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. No,
And-
because I without LeBron, I trust their drafting capability. With LeBron, I feel like when you have that caliber of a player, you're more w- willing to bend over backwards to keep that player happy.
Mm, okay.
So that's where I was getting frustrated with LeBron over his entire career, is that he wasn't happy, he couldn't get it done. He goes to Miami and then it starts going downhill from there. He's ready to trade away players and get picks and give away picks, like without. Let's say LeBron before the whole Luka AD trade happened, and let's say this was LeBron's last year. AD wasn't ready to take that team, and they had no draft picks to get to surround AD, and they had no cap to help AD if he was going to mantle the team, unless they traded for a Luka Doncic and whatnot, who wasn't going to be able to get a max deal.
Mm.
Uh, LeBron, as much as he is a franchise helper because he's obviously won at every stop that he's been, he's also a franchise killer in the fact that he's willing to give away a team's future in order to win now. And we've seen that it doesn't always work. It does work in terms of he's won a championship with every team he's been on, except for the first iteration of Cleveland. But um, it doesn't work consistently in terms of because we saw Miami lose, I think, 2 championships they shouldn't have, and we saw him lose multiple times with Cleveland, and he didn't lose yet with LA, but we've seen him be a disappointment in the playoffs. So that's I guess my answer is that I don't feel like the owners have the same uh, decision making ability when they have a LeBron on their team.
And we'll dive into that more as playoffs come around because I think that's a good point. And I'm a huge Kevin Durant fan, as we all know. I don't think it's strictly at LeBron. I think I personally feel there's superstar, and then there's iconic player. And I think LeBron, KD, and Steph are in that iconic kind of player to where when you have them on your team, unfortunately or fortunately, you don't really care about the draft. You care about bringing players in to win now because they are win now talents. So that's how I kind of agree with what you're both saying. It just popped in my head like, let's talk about it and see if we can tangent off onto a good conversation. And I think we did open the doors for something. So very excited about that. So that's our NBA update. Obviously about 10 to 12 games left on the season. And there it is. Freshman Derek Queen sends the Terps to the Sweet 16. Popping up on my phone. But that's our NBA stop. We'll stop there for now. We'll revisit that in a few weeks. As you can see, while we were talking about that, guys, we've had several things happen in the college tournament. This is live for those of you who do not know or did not think we're live. These are things that are happening right now. Maryland has upset Colorado. Well, not upset because Colorado's winning, but Maryland found a way to come back and win. Alabama has won on the day. Kentucky has won on the day. Duke has won on the day. Michigan State, not sure how, but they are losing. And Iowa State just did not show up to the game. So that's basically how our day is looking at college basketball. Quick shout out NCAA women's bracket. Jada Curry, Louisville, had 41 points. I think that's the high for men or women this year in the tournament. They did lose. They played a rival, and there's a little story behind that, which I will say in a minute. But Matt, Nick, any shout outs or any NCAA updates or business you want to talk about? Because I know a lot of things have happened since we've been talking.
Nick, go ahead.
I mean, in terms of the women's bracket,
Men's or women's. I've just had stuff come across my phone, so anything you guys have seen.
actually, it doesn't really pertain to the on court stuff, but
Mhm.
ESPN, you know how they do like the tournament challenge thing for the brackets.
Yeah.
So over 24 million brackets were submitted for the men for this year's challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the start of the Maryland Colorado State game, there was one perfect bracket left. And that bracket just lost because Maryland hit that shot. Whoever it was had Colorado State winning. So there are no more perfect brackets for the men's ESPN challenge. However, for the women's, there's still 169 left out of 3.5 million. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Um, but if we're going to shout out anybody, of course, we're in Connecticut. Got to shout out Uconn, women's Huskies, Paige Buckets. They're playing South Dakota State tomorrow night, and I expect that to be a blowout. Um, I think they got to, start rev it up and get ready for the Sweet 16, and on we go.
I got one quick shout out. Dan Hurley, UConn, post game interview, crying his eyes out on behalf of his team. Just shows how invested he is in coaching. You love to see it.
I will say that did pop up on me to watch on YouTube later, so I will be watching. Probably crying myself with him because I was invested this year. But kind of back to what I was saying before, we love a good rivalry in sports. We love to watch a villain play their former team or play on TV, whether it's Duke, Carolina, USC, ULA, Texas, Texas A&M, Florida, Florida State. We love a good rivalry. And anything that can add fuel to the fire, we love that. And we don't have any in the scenario I'm about to say on the men's side. But on the ladies' side, for those of you who don't know, Haley Van Lith at TCU transferred from Louisiana State University, LSU. But before she was at LSU, she was at Louisville and took some parting shots out of Louisville to go to LSU. Well, how the circle has come full mold because now she was playing her former team, Louisville, to go to the Sweet 16 after all the comments she's made. For those of you who don't know, Jada Curry transferred to Louisville to play with Haley Van Lith, and then Haley Van Lith left. So there's been bad blood. It's a game I wanted to watch but didn't get to today. I will watch the rerun. And Jada Curry showed up and had 41 points to try and upset TCU and Haley Van Lith. Sadly, it did not happen. TCU did win. They are a very good team. But that is my shout out to Jada Curry dropping 41 in an NCAA tournament game. Because if you were to ask us at the beginning of the year, outside of Juju, I'm not sure I would know anybody to drop 41 points in a game. So kudos to her. Kudos to her game. And she will also be hopefully a high draft pick at the next level. We are going to move on. Oh, what? Someone say something?
No, I was just going to say, I always forget that Haley Van Lith isn't in the league yet. I feel like she's been in
Yeah.
college forever.
It's funny. I believe it was 2 years at Louisville, 1 year at LSU, and then 1 year at TCU. And I think she can take advantage of a COVID year still because she was in college when it happened. She won't, but I think she can. Yeah, she's the same year as Paige Beckers. So a little shocking. You're right. We forget about her every now and then. But no, she's still here, still putting up, getting work and doing buckets. A little undersized for point guard, but she's still crafty and she's great as hell at basketball. Used to date Jalen Suggs, by the way, just throwing that out there. But let's move on. Matt.
Jalen Suggs was Gonzaga, right?
Yes, Dylan. Yes, when he was at Gonzaga, she was some sort of love triangle. I always joke around, but Paige Becker is really close with Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs dated Haley Van Lith, and I always wanted him to date Paige, but that's just me. But yeah, so there's that little threesome. They know each other really well in that terms. But Matt, what are we looking at betting this week? It is Sunday. Is there a game, 2 games, 3 games, round, snail racing, anything that you feel we should be looking at?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm staring at this Ole Miss game right now. Iowa State is already cutting the lead down to 7. This just seems like it's the story of college basketball at its finest is you have a big lead and you don't come out swinging in the second half. Oh, wait. No, okay. Well, oh, excuse me. We're back up to double digits. Let's keep it going in that direction. I got Ole Miss tonight. It's an upset. The odds were plus 190. I do want to shout myself out and say I was 4 or 5, possibly 5 of 6 on the week. So that's a very high percentage. You're not going to find that anywhere else. Let me bring up my phone real quick because who the hell is watching the NBA this week when all eyes are on NCAA basketball? I can't see the games yet for the Sweet 16. Do they have no they don't have the lines out right now.
The games are later in the week, so they are
Oh, it is.
Thursday, Friday.
Gotcha. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first Sweet 16 starts on Thursday.
Yeah, okay. That's what okay.
Oh, actually, Matt,
Yes.
ESPN Bet has lines out right now
Yeah, I'm
for
seeing
Auburn and Michigan.
it for Alabama, BYU too.
Yeah, Auburn 7.5-point favorites against Michigan.
I'm gonna be eyeing up the
They have
Arkansas Texas Tech game.
Yep.
All right, this is what I'm gonna do. I don't know what the Florida Maryland spread is, but I feel like Florida's gonna steamroll them because I feel like they're embarrassed that they only won by 2 points against Uconn.
Okay. So you feel like they're going to show up and flex their muscle?
Oh my God, I think it's gonna be a slaughter.
So Matt, let me ask you this question: since you've done phenomenal on your betting, what were you last week with your bets?
This week or last week?
This past week, or these past few days, I should say.
I've hit 4 of 5, and I think the only one I lost was because Jason Tatum didn't play. He was a game time decision, and he didn't play, so the over didn't hit.
If we're listening, where do we find out where you're betting?
Oh, in the YouTube comment section. I look at the games while we're here, but I don't really. I do a little bit of analysis. Obviously, you got to see who's playing, who's a game time decision, who might not play, this, that, and the other thing. So the best place is Monday morning or any morning during the week. Just take a look at the comment section. I will update it very early, 6:30 Eastern time in the morning. And that'll be there much in advance for the game, pretty much a 12-hour window where you can go into the comment section while you're listening to our roughly 2-hour podcast. Take a look at the comment section, pull up your DraftKings FanDuel, text your sugar daddy to bet for you. I don't know.
Oh my God.
And they'll be posted in there
Or
with
Sugar
it.
Mama, we are inclusive.
You take
Women
it.
can bet too.
Yeah, take a pic. They most certainly can. Take a peek at the comment section. You'll see my picks for the day. It's usually just one. I don't like to put a lot of eggs in a different baskets. I'm not a parlay guy.
Fair, fair. Well, that's good to know. I, for one, do not gamble like that or bet my hard-earned money. But for those of you who do, Matt has a very high winning percentage, and Nick just knows all. Let's move to you, Nick.
Nick knows nothing.
Well, of course, just don't listen to
Yes.
Nick on your bracket. But anything else, I would recommend it.
Just bracket. Yeah.
Nick, what are we ranting about
Yes.
this week? What caught your eye?
This is actually a segment of the show where I'm not actually gonna rant. I'm actually gonna not get emotional, but I do want to pay tribute to one of the great men in sports that passed away on Friday. The legendary George Foreman passed away on Friday. Big George, um, one of the great champions of boxing. The only person to have ever knocked him out is Muhammad Ali. The man has fought Joe Frazier. The man sparred Sonny Liston. The George Foreman grill, everyone thought he was kind of crazy. Made over $100 million selling those grills. I owned a George Foreman grill. It
One.
was I had one. Unfortunately, it broke. But
I feel it was a college dorm room staple.
exactly, and you know, he was a minister. You know, he was a family man. He had a ton of kids. Uh, He was just a great man, and I don't think he realized how many people he affected positively. You know, when you think of a role model as an athlete, you know, a lot of people bring up Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Kobe. George Foreman is a role model for a lot of people. At least he should be. And he's just one of those great people. And the sports world lost a great man Friday night. Um, you know, so I rest in peace, George Foreman. You know, thoughts and prayers to your family. I know for a fact George Foreman's in heaven, so um, you know, it's just it's unfortunate, you know. And yeah, that so I guess that's my rant, but you will be missed, George.
Did you see the video of him hitting the bag?
Yes.
When I saw that a long time ago, there wasn't. It actually was pretty recent, but I was thinking that he should have been the one that fought Mike Tyson and not Jake Paul.
No,
But obviously, we didn't expect this to happen. So definitely
no,
rest in peace.
no. By all means, take a moment of silence for George Foreman. Like I said, it's a college dorm room staple. For those of you who didn't watch him, you know of him because of one of his businesses and what he put his name on. Not as a joke or anything to say a moment of silence, but that just goes to show you the reach that this guy had. Whether you were someone who watches athletics and sports or someone who doesn't, you still knew his name in some way, shape, or form, in some fashion. So I'm with you guys. Rest in peace, George Foreman. You will be missed.
Yes, sir. Love you, George.
I want to do a quick shout out before I give my game that I want to keep an eye on. Sometimes it's the little things that we need to pay attention to or we need to watch. And I don't know if you guys caught it. And when you watch games at a bar, generally they don't have the sound up loud enough for you to hear. But it popped up on my Facebook feed. The Liberty Oregon game. Liberty lost 52, I think, to 81. There's a moment in the game where the coach from Liberty, was trying to get one of his players in. And he didn't use a timeout. And I'm not sure if he would have been able to get the player in. But what the ref did was he literally saw the guy trying to get in the game, walk on, game's out of control at this point. Stopped, blew the whistle for the kid to come in, and pretended that the floor was wet to justify him blowing the whistle to get a kid in the game who may not have gotten in the game. And to me, as much as we knock on refs, you suck, you're this, you're that, grow a pair, whatever. It's moments like that that just show you there's more to sports than just the competitive on the court, on the field, turf, grass, whatever. The fact that he took the time to stop the game to get a kid in the game who may never get that opportunity if the clock keeps running. And to me, I thought that was a great show of sportsmanship. If anything,
Was that the
it was
short
it was a
dude?
phenomenal moment. What?
Was that the short dude?
Um, it was some dude with poofy hair from Liberty.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how short he was, but I thought that was a cool moment. I've never seen that before. You can blatantly see the floor is not wet, but it was a cool moment, and kudos to that kid, his family, the team, everybody that he got to experience moments in the NCAA tournament because this time of year, that's what it's all about. I'm going to say on the last note that I'm going to bring out right here, my game to keep an eye on, and obviously I don't do bets or anything like that. But the first one that we're going to look at, I would say, is Friday. I'm not going backwards, we're only going forwards. And we're going to go with Kentucky versus Tennessee. Now, I know there's a good chunk of people who have Tennessee to win the national championship or to go to the Final Four. But this is not the time of year when you're playing in the NCAA tournament that you want to see a team from your conference. The SEC was loaded this year. It is still a loaded tournament with a lot of SEC teams in it. And this is the first matchup we're going to get to go to, I think, the Elite Eight, is we have Kentucky versus Tennessee. They have a huge individual rivalry in general, and now they're playing for something. Watch this game. It is going to be phenomenal. I think we'll get at least 3 technicals in this game. Some way, some shape, whatever. This is going to be the game of the week to watch. I know it's the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of good games, but this is the one where I think we'll keep our eye on. And also, keep your eye on BYU. Let's see if they can keep this shooting streak going. Richie Saunders. See if they can upset Alabama. But those are my games of the week that I would keep an eye on. Not that the other games won't be good. I know Cooper Flagg will do his thing. But those are going to be the exciting ones to me. I think that about wraps up our regular televised programming. Nick, any final thoughts you have?
None at the moment. Right. I mean, I hate to do the live update thing. Ole Miss is pulling away. So Baywoods Bets strikes again.
Listen, if Ole Miss wins this game, we would now be 250% up in 2 weeks.
Man,
Right. Put the stake deeper in my heart, but okay.
For those that may not do well with percentages, what is that in dollars, Mr. Baywood?
It would be. We started with $100 on this channel. I cleaned out the account, and it would end in $350. I don't think you can
And
find a
when
hedge fund that does better than that in 2 weeks.
you might find them in the Cayman Islands, but they still won't do as well as Baywoods Bets.
Not
And
at
they're not
all.
even doing it legally.
God.
But
Yeah, Ole
on a
Miss is
real
almost up
final
by
thought,
20.
yeah. On a real final thought, again, I guess we'll just dedicate this episode to George Foreman. Um, a legend, rest in peace. And for everyone that's listening, watching, again, thanks for taking some time out to listen to 3 buddies talk sports and do what they love to do. So we appreciate it. And Matt, Cam, I appreciate you guys too, man. You guys are
No
the boss.
problem. Appreciate you also. Matt, do you have any final thoughts before we kick off or any last minute shout outs?
No, Nick beautifully transitioned my final thought in with his, so good job, Nick.
You
All
too,
right.
man. Keep making us money.
You know what?
DraftKings,
That
please
is.
sponsor us. There we go. We haven't said that yet this episode.
Oh yes,
Oh my.
yeah. Please sponsor us. Please give us money. No, I'm just kidding. But at least subscribe, DraftKings, if you're watching.
Yes, always subscribe. Always, we are here. We do this because we like it. Come subscribe. DraftKings. I don't bet, but my cohorts do. So
You go to
they
Foxwoods,
will
that's all that
they will
matters.
do it. Don't tell people about my Mohegan and Foxwoods life. But that's neither here nor there. But again, I think shout out to all the colleges out there who, in a weird way, have lost or won in the NCAA tournament. It has been a phenomenal year for games on the men's side, the women's side. I know the women's, we've had a lot of blowouts, but we're about to take center stage because we're about to see some matchups. Juju
Yep.
Watkins, Paige Beckers,
Gotta
Lauren
have it.
Betts, Flau'jae Johnson, Tahina Papau, everybody, all number 1 seeds. schools that have huge followings. We're going to see some records broken, men and women's side. It's a great tournament so far. Sad it's a third of the way over, but excited that this is what we waited all year for. On that note, I've got nothing else for you guys. Thank you for listening. Sorry, my voice is rasped. I've been shouting at the TV during tournament time. But again, we appreciate you, and hit that like button and subscribe today.